Code 1 is a term used by law enforcement for either clearing a call as incident report made or as referring to the report itself. Welcome to the Code 1 podcast, where we start with the facts usually found in the initial reports and scene of the crime, work our way out, and back in. I'm your host, Jason Zod, a professional investigator with over 19 years' experience. Join me as I talk with others who add their own valuable perspectives to a podcast where assumption is always second to deduction. Welcome back to the Code 1 podcast. I'm your host, Jason Zod, and tonight is not our typical fanfare. We are doing an update on something that has captured the nation and I guess you could say the world's attention. A case that is, I suppose, ever present along this show and the people on it. I'm talking about the Delphi case. Interesting things are happening with the defense team of Richard Allen and a memorandum they published. But first off, let's welcome back my lovely co-host Nat, also award-winning broadcaster. He is
hello. Good evening.
She's the linchpin of our show. And Nat, how are you feeling about this one? All this stuff.
A lot of anger, a lot of mixed emotions.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's
a pretty good and concise way to put it. And with me to my right, a man who is going to be indispensable on this particular episode, as he is on every one.
Also,
a guy who's
also lovely.
Yes, also lovely, but not Mr. Lovely.
No.
A guy who's an award-winning investigative journalist, host of the Trash Podcast, John Hunter. Welcome back, John.
Good evening. Boy, does this case never stop getting weirder and weirder.
You would think we had hit the wall a long time ago.
I really didn't see this turn coming.
No.
Well,
I've followed this case for probably close to when it started, and it was odd from the get-go. This is just another wave of weirdness.
It's also an interesting litmus test for folks who are interested in these things.
Yeah.
Because you see who latches onto what about this and where the attention goes when people are talking about it or what they're saying and how people evaluate and sift through information.
Yeah.
And if they're actually making efforts to think on their own.
I think there are things that are said that that aren't said. So it's like there's information out there, but what are they actually saying? What's the
yes.
And also look, you're right, there's almost like a callus you build off of. All right, this is another weird thing, but what's gonna be the breaking point? What's the end of this? Like, where are we going with this? And I guess ultimately, we'll talk about that. But yeah, just some odd. I can't imagine the family at this point, the families of these girls, when this information comes out, and it's just odd.
Yeah, man. I mean, any victim is terrible. It's just this is violent crime. This is the ugly face of violent crime mixed with sensationalism. On its face. This is what that is.
I would love to talk about that later on because it does remind me of something else.
Oh yeah. So Nat, are you familiar with what a Franks motion is? Or yes, so Franks motion or Franks hearing rather?
I am not. Enlighten us.
A Franks hearing is basically a form of challenge to generally a search warrant. Or any other piece of evidence, but mostly search warrants and documents that the state has filed to basically suspend constitutional rights or to find the exception to the rule in a constitutional right. In this particular case, it would be the Fourth Amendment for search and seizure to go in and basically look for what they want, look for what they're after. And that's something that's pretty great about the country we live in, that there is a pretty high bar to go to a judicial official to get your Fourth Amendment right suspended for a certain reason or case. You have to show that it's a big deal, and it should be. And this judicial official has to say yay or nay based on the level of probable cause. And just to let folks know, probable cause in law is not a certain thing where it has to be 75% or whatever. Probable cause, if you're going to put it percentage wise, is 50.0000001%. It is something that is simply more likely than not to be true, or to be a crime at that point to have happened. And it's not the high bar that folks often think it is. This warrant that is being challenged, the information in it, when I first became aware of it, I had great concerns about it then. And this is not unexpected that there is a Franks hearing based on what I originally saw.
When you were just pointing that out about probable cause, I think people can look in this case and go back and look at the Ron Logan warrants and see what, some of the things in there pretty far-fetched, but at the time, I guess they made it look like it's more likely than not. I mean, those things turned out to be wildly untrue, but as far as
even the truth used in the allegations and the support of the affidavit, they were basically cherry picking things in order to create a narrative that was favorable to get to probable cause.
Right. So,
and that's where things get dangerous. And to be blunt, that's part of the allegation here. And since it has been done before, in this case, one as a citizen has to wonder, is it being done again? And the defense alleges that, boy, is it being done again. When you actually look through and read this, I would hope you would make decisions for yourself and come to conclusions. And just not really do a spoiler-free impression off the top of your head, Nat. What was your spoiler-free impression of this particular memorandum for the Franks hearing?
So I won't say how I feel about the content and what was said specifically, because I don't know how to do a spoiler-free.
That's a tough thing. I just asked you to characterize, but it's something I've been thinking about.
I think I got it right, especially after finishing it today. When I told you guys, it reads like if Trump were more coherent and less funny. And there's just like at the end, one of the witnesses, or they should have done another read through, I think, and edited it a little bit.
Certainly, yeah, I agree.
Because I don't know, it's one of the last parts. They're talking about witnesses, and they actually mix two separate witnesses into one. So it got really confusing as to what they were trying to say and disprove or prove or whatever they were doing. And it stuck out like a sore thumb to somebody like me who doesn't read court documents frequently, but is trying to, follow what they're trying to say. And
that's not
I'm like,
typical, in my opinion.
What?
What you're talking about, that's, as far as court documents go, that's a big glaring mistake, in my opinion. But
yeah, that's what I mean. I'm like,
well, I believe in that particular case, I think I understood what happened. A lot of this was dictated.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. They should have done.
Yeah.
They should, for something as important as this. In this case, are you kidding me?
It's gonna pop up in it's 136
My anger's
pages.
popping up.
Yeah, you gotta calm down. Go to your happy place.
So that's what I took away from it.
Right. John, you got anything to add to the characterization?
I do. I think it is okay. In one way, I feel like it's brilliant smoke and mirrors to get
Mm-hmm.
what they wanted. To what they wanted. On the other hand, I feel like it's on a personal level pretty appalling, some of the stuff that's in there. But that's just my opinion. But if I was looking at it objectively, from a strategic point of view, yeah, it's pretty brilliant in some ways.
Yeah, that's yeah, you guys make some great points. And with that said, let's get into this. I would like to start with the table of contents. I think that kind of speaks to the entire thing. It is rare that you're going to see a table of contents this large for a memorandum. Like I said, it does go to 136 pages with a conclusion. But after the intro, they start off with the crime scene. To me, far and away, this is what I read and reread over and over. It is infuriating to me as a professional that I can't see this for myself. Just to let you know, I am going off of descriptions that attorneys have published. These are experienced homicide attorneys. They've done many cases. They're very good at what they do by all reviews and accounts. But man, there's nothing like seeing something for yourself, because your set of eyes are going to tell you a story that maybe they can't see. And I'm clenched fist over this. But the information they provided, if accurate, is not only confirmation of a lot of the stuff that we've talked about before, it is a revelation of new information, evidence that is compelling, powerful, tells a grand story of what happened in that frame of time where this atrocity was committed. And it infuriates me about what I've learned since reading it, about the handling of evidence, the collecting of evidence, certain things on scene. It, as a former detective, a homicide detective, working for the state, I can't believe in 2017 these things happened. 2017 was not the dark ages of detective work. There's help everywhere. So I'll stop preaching about that. Let's get into it. Some things we learned. It had been rumored for a long time that Libby and Abby had been killed by an edged weapon, and that there were neck wounds. The attorneys described the scene as ghoulish. Libby was found, I'm going to read directly from this. Libby was found at the base of a tree with 4 tree branches lying across her, intentionally placed, arranged in a pattern on her naked body. She was positioned flat on her back with her left arm stretched above her head, touching the base of a large tree. I would assume that's like at the root trunk area. And her right hand was covered in blood, as was her left. Blood spots and blood drippings were seen all over Libby's body from head to toe. They go on to say, basically, where her right arm was positioned, there was a scene off Court TV, a graphic I believe they came up with, that's online now, that shows the relative positions of the body and to the tree. I don't know that the Abby graphic is quite as accurate as the Libby one. From the reading, it would seem that Abby's hands were placed almost in a prey position. A lot of this has to do with the way bodies act. You can try to pose a dead body in a certain way. It's going to move differently than you think. It's not going to settle where you think. These are inanimate at this point. They're not mannequins. The skeletal support's there for things, but fluids are moving around differently. Muscles are not functioning. Gravity is a huge factor in posing a body. So I can understand the difficulty in reading this and not being able to understand what was going on.
And honestly, I'm not to be too graphic here, but like with the wounds that they had and posing them as well, they're also dealing with like, blood and things.
There's a great deal of blood loss, and we're going to come to that.
But I mean, when you're moving, there's going to be that as well, right? And so that's something you're dealing.
These allegedly, on at least one was a sheerly arterial wound. And that was on Abby. I'm not able to get a good read on Libby's wound. And again, these are things that I'm just chomping at the bit to see for myself as an investigator, to see what the truth is.
Right.
But
yeah.
Arterial neck wounds, well, I mean, some of it actually sprays out depending on what's going on with the person. The human body, especially in an excited position where you have an elevated heart rate, they go on later on to say one officer stated that Abby would have died slowly because of the nature of the wound.
They reiterate that really kind of bothered me.
The defense, in fairness, the defense themselves were not saying that.
Yeah,
they were. This is off of a deposition of now Sheriff Tony Liggett, according to this memorandum.
Right.
That is not an estimation one could make. An arterial wound with elevated heart rate, adrenaline, excitement, panic breaths, all these things that happen in these types of moments are going to exacerbate that blood flowing out quicker and quicker. I mean, most people, that wouldn't be a very prolonged thing. You're going to pass out from the blood flow alone quickly and expire fairly quickly. I don't want to go into all the details. This is a child's death. This is fucking, again, atrocity is the only word I can come up with. It's such a sin, and not even in the religious sense, just something that stands in opposition to everything I think we as people hold true. And I look at and I study these things intensely, and I really don't enjoy that. But it has to be done. It has to be done correctly to get the job done. I enjoy finding people and finding the truth. That I relish. But this is tough. Read it if you want. If you don't want to listen to this part of the podcast, go forward about 5 minutes. Because there's more to come and there's more analysis, and it's not pleasant. It is, I think, extremely revealing and valuable. As I said, Libby was her clothes were not present. No mention of ligature marks, which does come into play later on in certain allegations. The branches and leaves covering both bodies appeared to have little to no blood on them, which would indicate they were likely placed there post-mortem. Well, they were definitely placed there post-mortem. There are drag marks from one site to Libby's final resting place under the tree, indicating post-mortem movement. Both her hands are bloody. Some people are saying this or that or whatever. But the fact of the matter, her hands were probably bloody because she was probably trying to cover the wound. Which is just a human reaction to that. Abby's body, positioned close to Libby, at a little bit of a offshoot angle around 40 50 degrees. Abby was posed with clothing on, no shoes, one shoe under her body, as well as Libby's cell phone. As I said before, it looked like they were trying to put her in a praying motion. The sticks and limbs covering her were in more of a cross fashion, with one going askew, a third limb. There were sticks characterized by the prosecution in the pictures that were placed on top of her hair as an antler type or horn type shape in how they were configured. Again, I would very much like to see that. The prosecution ended up mentioning she was wearing undergarments that were likely hers. And the clothing she was wearing was Libby's. Her feet were clean, her hands were clean, her body was clean except for the neck area around the shirt and the wound itself, which is standard for post-mortem. Her body appears to have been dressed post-mortem.
One thing I didn't understand, did they specify that her original clothing was gone, and that they put the clothing over her clothing?
They did not specify that her original clothing was gone as far as the outer clothes.
Yeah.
They specified that the bra and the bra she wore over were hers. However, they were free of blood and blood stains.
Yeah.
Which indicates that most likely both victims were not wearing clothes when they were killed.
Right.
They didn't find her original clothing. Or it's like hazy, like whether or not they
don't list it. See, this is another thing. I will like the evidence control form on this case is such a valuable thing. This is why evidence control, this is a crash course in why it matters so much. What'd you find it? Where'd you found it? Who found it? And then you've got documentations, pictures.
Another thing they listed too, the clothing was wrong as far as the pants go.
Well, these were Libby's clothes on Abby.
I know, but when she left the house, they said she was wearing sweatpants, and this is listed as jeans,
this is a defense characterization. If that's what Libby was wearing was sweatpants, I don't know. It may just be that they've got a picture, and the picture is unfocused, and it's not, because I've seen it before when they'll give a defense team discovery, and it's just all like shitty black and white or blurry, low color, low quality copies.
Which that makes it interesting too when you talk about those covering the sticks and such.
Right, as well as the now infamous F mark, supposedly.
Right.
But everybody's going on all these different fucking tangents about, this is an adoration sign and blah blah blah. They dressed her because of this or that, and and Libby was reviled, and that was like, that may be 100% true. I'm not in anyone's head, but I can tell you this: it's easier to dress a dead body in bigger clothes than it is clothes that fit.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's just a fact. Motivation? I don't know yet. I don't have enough information. But the fact of the matter is, if you're wanting to cover something or someone up for whatever reason that may have gone through your head after they got fucking killed, and I'm guessing the person that dressed them is one of the party that killed them. If it's not, somebody's got some fucking explaining to do.
Well, also, like, were they paying? Man, I hate to. Were they even paying attention to like whose was what clothing?
That's entirely possible too. That kind of crossed my mind. But they possibly dressed her really quick.
That's what I mean. They were
in a hurry, and it was just that they grabbed the wrong clothes.
Yeah.
And with the shoe and the cell phone being under the foot.
Well, there was that also about the water, clothing being in the water.
Right. That could very well took it and was like, fuck it. because you've got one victim that had a lot of attention paid to her, a lot, and you got another one that looks like they're like, ah, fuck, you know.
Now they said Libby was covered with clothing, with sticks, right?
Sticks / branches, yeah,
Over
whatever.
her.
Yes.
And Abby didn't have as many.
Abby had nearly the same, but it looks like Libby, there was more finesse and design put into whatever was covering Libby. Abby's looked.
Oh, that's Libby.
Yeah.
Okay.
Libby's looked like. I'm sorry, start that.
Yeah, the reverse.
Abby had more finesse put on her. Libby, it was like it was a cruder attempt at whatever was going on.
Or just covering, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen. I don't know these things, how big they are, how many leaves they have on them.
Right.
If they have no leaves on them at some point.
Also, like, sort of what was around them. Like, she lower? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
How concealed?
Well, I've seen that spot of land. It's a kind of a like bowl shaped.
I know, but you would think like lower and you would be more concealed than if you were up a little more.
I mean, they're roughly at the same elevation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's that little spot of land has that natural concealment to it. I think that's part of what fed into them taking so long to be discovered. But there's so much going on there. There's so many things I don't want to mention because I don't want to fuck the case by mentioning them and just putting it out there in the public. But I mean, you know, that's certainly posing for Abby. And with Libby, it's almost like they just drug her by the arm there and left her. And then all of a sudden they got interrupted and had to get the fuck out. Like, you know, it's like, oh, we gotta get the fuck out of here. Just throw some shit on her. And,
right.
Yeah. Just make it look cold. I don't know. I don't know if it was a hurry thing. What speaks to me is you've got two very different things. It does not look like, I hate to say it this way, it doesn't look like Libby was finished. If that makes any sense. And just speaking from experience, and I'm just gonna say this bluntly and rip the Band-Aid. You got those two young girls, you've got them out there, you have their clothes removed, you know, and it doesn't have any characterizations that the clothes were torn that they have found by the defense or noticeably damaged or distressed. In fact, they're talking about how clean they appeared in the photographs. Well, you know, what do you do that for? This is all the hallmarks of some sort of sex act assault being committed upon these poor girls. So something, you know, something terrible. And you've got one that's cleaned, one that's, you know, kind of put back in the casing. And I'm not saying these are smart people that did this. That's not the case at all. This is not a twirling mustache, black hat act. You know, this isn't a super criminal that did this. This is someone who they're just as lucky, if anything, to this group.
I think I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was just going to say we don't want to bury the lead on this whole thing, though.
No, but I'm just telling you, man. I see what I see and I read what I read.
Right. I think,
and if this information is accurate, you know, the likelihood that they were interrupted, they didn't get to finish whatever it is they started, is becoming more and more increasing.
Well, according to the memorandum, their theory, their accusation, I guess you would say, the defense from the lead, their thesis statement, if you will, is that this was the act of not
what they call Odinist
cult.
Right. Well, and that leads to another piece of information that's a piece of evidence on the scene, which is the supposed blood mark that is a painted F on a tree. Now, you were good enough to forward me this characterization. I believe it was by Barbara McDonald. Is that correct?
This was given to her by the I don't know exactly who gave it to her. The investigating team, whoever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a rendering.
It is a almost like a Rorschach test, except it's not bilateral. It's a marking with splotches on it, and one could loosely interpret it as an F. I could just as easily interpret that as that's an arm, because it is approximately 4 feet high. A bent arm, or just a person's shoulder and body at a certain angle has made contact that had blood on it. They got a tree.
It does not appear to be any sort of painted.
It does not appear to be brushed. Now, this is what I'm looking at.
There are dots. These are
splotches.
Splotches. Yeah. When you paint them, there's brush marks, and there's
it's like contact or casting. And the way this, and again, this is someone's interpretation. I'm not speaking to it because I haven't fucking seen this thing.
But I think that's a very important point, though.
It's interesting.
No, interpretation.
Right.
Is the
It's the crux of all that. Yeah.
The point of this whole thing.
Right. So, if the illustration that Barbara McDonald put out there is in fact closer to the actual blood mark on the tree, then I think that's going to allow people to make a more informed decision about a narrative that's created under what I would call at best tenuous circumstance.
Can I mention something about the sticks too? Now that we're talking about that,
mm-hmm.
So investigators went on the scene. They argued back. I mean, not argued. There was debate whether those were placed in a certain manner on purpose or it was just a cover. And that was never really defined. I suppose they have photos. I know they have photos of that. So, but the thing is, they didn't collect.
No, it was revealed by Miss McDonald as well, who, by the way, she was on this case since almost day one.
Was day one.
Yeah, one of the bigger authorities on Delphi, outside of the investigative teams working on it. She's a repository of knowledge, down the hill, fantastic podcast series. I would highly encourage anyone not familiar with Delphi, start there, and then hit the murder sheet, hit the prosecutors, and hit us up. We like it. We like talking to you. But yeah, and I'm sorry for rattling on, but I'll get through these as fast as I can. Some of this has to be said. The collection of the sticks 3 to 4 weeks later. Weeks.
But
blood and DNA evidence weeks later. Evidence abandoned on a crime scene of 2 children.
Yeah.
It's inexcusable.
But they did get DNA supposedly off of that F symbol.
They ran a DNA. Yeah, it was supposedly Libby's blood.
Right, which is like they didn't cut the tree down. They didn't take that sample.
No, nope, they didn't take a sliver of bark using, I don't know how many different wood cutting implements you could use.
Mm-hmm.
No, they didn't do any of that.
So,
and then supposedly they found a bullet. But here's the thing: the prosecution doesn't say this, and I think they're probably waiting to hold this in court. But they do put it out there. There are no pictures of that bullet on the scene. There are no pictures of that bullet being collected. There's a little quip, a little dig in there that says the only pictures of the bullets when it was still in the ground, because this bullet supposedly was produced from in the ground.
Well, it was under Libby's body, they said.
No, they said between the 2 bodies.
Oh, I thought it was underneath.
No.
Okay.
No, it was between the area between the 2 bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the evidence control form, I would love to see the date that was collected, because if this was collected when they went back and this is me simply putting a little caveat on this, because I don't know one way or the other. I would hope they collected it the day they got the bodies, if you're getting evidence. If you find that bullet 3 to 4 weeks later, the weight of that evidence just took its thumb off the scale. That doesn't hold water in a court of law.
Now, those things you just said are what essentially I think this is what they wanted to convey. That's really what they wanted to get out there.
Yes.
What they did, though,
you sensationalize. This is asymmetrical warfare by the defense. This entire memorandum.
okay. So now you have this thing about Odinus, right?
Right.
They name Nat. We talked about this.
Yeah, you guys have been going into this thing a lot harder. I just
no, it's not. It's not about the. They named people in this document that were. So essentially, there was an investigation. Let me see how to break this down. There was an investigation that 3 officers, according to this memorandum, 3 officers investigating this Odinus angle. Okay, they named these officers in there. Unfortunately, one of them is died. He was killed in a shootout.
Yeah.
Well, these officers in this investigation that was, I guess, they say overlooked or never really taken seriously. They say that they're found that there was possible Odinistic symbols at the crime scene, including the F and the way that they were positioned and the sticks, the way the sticks were positioned. In addition, the defense is saying now that there are prison guards that are at the prison where
Westville Correctional,
where Richard Allen, the suspect, is being held, that wear Odinus symbols on their uniforms. And he mentions a few other people that were suspects that were not, they were investigated and for whatever reason.
No,
I'm going on. Just go to the memorandum.
From the memorandum. They do directly name the prison guards, and
yes,
they do directly identify them from personal knowledge as being around Richard Allen when the legal team speaks to him and in other communications.
Right.
They did vet that part as far as they did their homework, saying that in fairness.
Right, but
that was direct knowledge. That was not hearsay. It was not third-hand information. It was not conjecture.
Now, they did mention one person I know in this that had an alibi, which is why he was cleared.
Him and his son.
Yeah, he was cleared. Yeah, several years ago because he was, I don't know how many miles away.
I haven't vetted his alibi. I don't know where the fuck that
but
guy
this
was.
Is just according to the
I don't think anybody vetted the alibi.
Well, they did. There's a statement that was released that
recently.
Yes.
Okay.
Cool.
Not by vetted his alibi, but I can tell you that this angle is. I'll get to that. This was released yesterday. So do you want me to go ahead and get into that statement now?
No.
Okay.
That should come chronologically at the end of this, where we go through this, we talk about the memorandum, and then that's an addition to the information.
So this Odinus angle, they're saying that these guys are intimidating Richard Allen, that they forced him to confess, because Richard Allen has confessed several times in the facility that he's at over the phone to his wife. I think to other people too, but we know he did to his wife.
We don't know the context of those confessions.
We know he confessed to the murder, though, that he did. We know that
he said something that seemed to be a confession.
They said it was a confession. So
okay,
this is what
I haven't heard it, so I
haven't either. This is coming from all parties that this was a confession. So he they're saying that they're contributing to his decline in mental health, that they call him a child killer, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So now you have this Odinus conspiracy that sacrificed these 2 girls for some reason. Okay, I'll get to that in a minute, but this is basically where that angle is in. This is a big part of this.
Yeah, and this is predicated off of an investigation by Kevin Murphy, Greg Ferenczi, and Todd Click.
Todd Click being the
Greg Ferenczi lost his life in the line of duty, tragically, recently in the past. They were in different jurisdictions. They had been brought into the investigation.
Not only that,
task force.
Todd Click was a
deputy chief.
Those two were on a FBI task force. They weren't working like as they were working on this angle because I don't know how many calls came in on this, how many tips. They had to work all these angles. So what they did was work an angle and basically worked it to the end, and that was it. And then came up with the best possible conclusion they could come up with, or I guess the best, that was a possibility. It went nowhere. What essentially
it didn't come to conclusion.
Right.
I would, they discovered things. It didn't come to conclusion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Nat, did you see the part about the behavior analysis unit?
Maybe.
Okay. This is an interesting thing, and I'd like to get your take on this. Again, you're the voice of the people. But if you heard that a prosecution or a state's agency, police office, whatever, obtained some sort of testimony or expert opinion from a professor, but that agency, after including that information in reports, could not remember the professor's name or exactly when and where they obtained it, what kind of weight would you give to that?
0.
Okay. If you heard that a prosecution omitted an analysis by the FBI's behavior analysis unit that was submitted to law enforcement and did make it into the prosecutor's hands at some point, would you think that was deceptive if they didn't give that to the defense?
100%.
Right. And that these are allegations by the defense in this memorandum. And if these things prove to be true in this Franks hearing, then you, as the public, what are you going to think of the prosecution about that?
I'm going to think that they are either intentionally fucking up this investigation or just can't admit that they don't know what they're doing and have been completely negligent.
So either way,
it's really bad. You lose faith.
It's not good.
Yeah.
So would that make you more inclined to listen to someone's painted narrative concerning what the prosecution has alleged in this case? I mean, the defense has alleged in this case.
I would say yes.
Right.
If it wasn't so outlandish, I'm not saying this isn't a possibility what they're putting out there, but it just seems like they went a little
bit much
kilter. Yeah.
A little bit much.
When there's other angles that could point away from Richard Allen, or maybe not. But, being that their client is Richard Allen, I know why they did what they did here.
Right.
But it doesn't make me believe them more. If anything,
right.
I just have more doubt all around and trust nobody.
Now, I'll share a little something with our listeners. We have a little Code 1 text chain. And you had mentioned why in all of this didn't the defense point their guns at someone who was more likely a suspect or two suspects that folks have mentioned a lot in this case. And I think the consensus we all came to, and what my professional opinion was, is, well, you may not want to do that if your client was there with them that day.
Yeah.
Might be a bad thing to point it right there.
Let's point it right to where this is gonna.
I would say there are two people that have been mentioned that were not anywhere near this memorandum.
Right.
There's no mention of them at all.
Right.
That have been mentioned quite a bit.
I mean, they might as well be in Mexico, according to this memorandum.
Right. Yeah, interesting.
Well, and we talked about them on the.
Sure,
sure, but they're not in this memorandum.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not here. It's not hard to find out who.
I still don't think they're.
That's what makes me even more suspicious of the defense. And I'm like, I'm trying to keep an open mind, but there's so much shit that's been thrown around in this case and left there, and there's so many reasons to be pissed off.
Right. And in this memorandum, like I said, in my opinion, it's asymmetrical warfare. There are some things they did that are not the greatest things in the world. And there's some things they did that are brilliant.
Well,
sure.
And shooting holes in the witness statements.
But I think that was the intent, right? So, like,
yes,
this Odinist angle, let's be honest, is this bullshit. First of all, the things don't even add up as far as Odinism. The symbolism that they're talking about doesn't add up. It's not Odinist.
Okay, we're going to talk brass tacks with the Odinism thing.
Yeah.
Here's my opinion. They want him moved closer to them. They hate that he's in Westville. Yeah. This puts overwhelming pressure, even though it's probably bullshit. It puts overwhelming pressure on everybody to get him out of what could be, in some people's minds, the fucking foxes the chickens in the fucking fox house this time. He's right there in the house. Yeah. That's right, dude.
The chickens, the foxes in the
he's the chicken in the fox house. I said what I meant.
The rabbits and
a chicken in the fox house ain't gonna do so well. You know what I'm talking about?
Foxes get hungry.
Yeah, dude.
And they also like to kill for sport.
We like chicken too.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, they want him out of there. They desperately want him out of there. They want a different facility. This is a grand opportunity to do that because they have a search warrant that is not great.
They also have already.
We have said that since the beginning, the inception, which I've said it on other podcasts. This is where it's so important when you write the affidavit for a search warrant, that four corners doctrine, it's everything.
But they also have already searched that facility and they've gone and done the whole thing with that. And he's not, they found that he's fine. He's actually being treated better.
But it's bad for the defense.
I know it's bad for the defense, but it's just another Hail Mary, I guess.
Look, buddy, it's pretty smart.
I think to me, it looks like they have this theory. They had an investigation and they're saying, this investigation has got as much water as what you have over here with all your holes in it now.
Oh, and they shot a lot.
Why aren't you investigating this over here when it's just as much this crazy fucking theory about Odinist? Then your theory about the bullet and everything, when you have, that's what it looks like to me.
Well, and they had Liggett who testified in a deposition that it was the work of one man, according to this memorandum. And I don't think that's something that they would chance being wrong about. If that's the case, Jesus, you want to talk about turning a sailboat into a fucking submarine. That thing is going to the bottom of the fucking ocean. Well, it's not the work of one person.
No, but that could always be changed too. It's not that they.
But the thing is, they've expressed it. They put it out there, and it's something that is going to shake public faith in law enforcement in this particular case.
But they've also, defense just put out there that an Odinist cult is sacrificing children. If you look, that's satanic panic stuff.
I understand, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but what I'm talking about, it's a brilliant move for their purpose.
It
doesn't impact his guilt or innocence one way or another.
This cult killed 2 children and then stopped killing people.
They haven't had
there's no record anywhere. I've looked extensively of the Odinist killing.
Yeah, dude, but they're really clever.
Yeah, apparently.
Really clever.
Well,
so why would you want to make
found out about this one?
Why would you put the symbols out there to say that this is, it's also like putting your mark on, almost like writing your name on the like murder site scene and saying like we did this and this is part of a.
Look, they wanted him out of Westville. They saw those guards with those patches. They saw it more than a few times. They saw this stuff about Odinism in the Discovery, and they're like, "Yeah, whether they believe it or not, it's something. It's a connection of facts, loosely at the very least, and it's something that they can use to accomplish their goal, which is to get him out of Westville."
I'm going to read this now. I think it's a good time as far as the Odinism thing goes.
Okay, well, yeah, there's a lot more shit to get through here.
Okay, well, I want to say something about the scene too.
Okay.
To me, that always when I've seen and I've heard, I always thought this is a sexually based crime. I mean, that was pretty much a foregone conclusion, right? Even before we knew what.
Well, I mean, you don't know till you know. You're talking about a sexual assault was committed during the.
I'm not even saying a sexual assault necessarily is so much sexually based.
Yeah, the motivation. I'm almost undoubtedly
the kidnapping, the taken to the scene. It seems like if there was, it almost could be someone who's like clumsy. This is their first time actually. Like I feel like they could be motivated by dead bodies, sexually aroused by death, and
the act of killing. Yeah.
This is the first time they've done, or just the dead body in general. Sexually motivated, and they haven't done this, so they're like, they don't know what to do. So they're trying to do all these things. They don't have it's sort of like when you look at other serial killers, the first ones, they sometimes do so many things.
There's an evolution.
Yeah.
You don't have your style down yet.
Right.
It's like dancing in middle school. Nobody does it right first.
Well, yeah, that's a good example though. Like, you just don't know what to do, and you're trying to do all these
shots
things
in the dark.
Right. And that kind of looks like this. There's no cohesiveness to this thing. And
well, I mean,
but I also think there I feel like there were other people there. So it's like
someone was holding these girls at gunpoint while this happened.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
I also think, well,
they never be able to prove who did it or whatever, but this is a minimum of 2 people involved.
I have no
crime.
No basis for this. Well, there is some basis. This is just a wild assumption on my part, but I feel like that there's a chance that there was video evidence of this.
Yeah, you've asserted that before. You've got that gut feeling.
And well, I have a reason, but I just can't say it.
Well, I can't disprove that. I mean, honestly, it's entirely possible.
I can't say it on here.
I think it's more unlikely as time has gone on that's not been discovered. But
right. Well, they may have not. It may have been destroyed, but I have a reason. I have a reason to believe that.
Those iPhone 5s are pretty hefty.
Well, if you're traveling across the country,
it's a great place to travel to.
Where? Las Vegas.
Las Vegas.
Yeah,
place, yeah.
That's part of.
It's pretty awesome.
Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, about the bungling. Yeah, in the placement of these sticks, it doesn't take a fucking genius. If you've read a Dan Brown book or seen the fucking Da Vinci Code, the 2 sticks that are placed in a V formation, starting at Libby's crotch area. It's just the chalice symbol, if you will. It's archetypical. And shit. Look at the Blair Witch Project. The sticks used in there, and it's coming from like Druidism and old Wicca and Irish folklore and Kabbalah stuff and all this shit. I mean, these are archetypical things that appear in especially Western culture a lot. And I see a lot more effort, attention, and time being put into Libby.
That's a bookstore cult. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, you could go to the magic section of the bookstore that I used to go to all the time.
Yeah.
And you could find most of this shit.
This is like Hot Topic cult.
Yeah, like instead of being in a band, you just shop at Hot Topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to be like, but Jesus Christ, it's so fucking
it's
dark.
I'm just saying this is not a.
Yeah, it's
it's
rough, man. It's rough as hell.
So the
Well, they're gonna allege, I think, that it's Fehu, which is the rune for wealth.
What do you think it is? You had a good explanation for what it possibly was. Or you already said that, right?
The F on the tree. I think it's where someone. I mean, if the Barbara McDonald thing is correct, I think it's where somebody made contact with a tree that had blood on them. It could have been one of the victim's arms, or it could have been, just a body that was covered in blood, like a human, one of the killers. You're gonna get so much fucking blood on you and all this. It's an edged weapon death. It's a neck wound. God,
we don't even know. Well, I guess they found it was her blood. So
Libby's blood, yeah.
Yeah,
That one.
I was gonna say it wouldn't be their blood.
No, I mean they've got DNA from the crime scene that I'm sure are mixed samples. Like with just the way they're making this sound from someone else's impression, I just have to put that caveat out there again.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the few types of knife deaths where the perpetrator is less likely to be wounded. I mean, this was not so much as a passionate thing as it was an execution. I'm not saying there wasn't passion, gratification, sexual elements, all that shit there. I'm just saying it looks as though they were held at gunpoint, had their clothes removed. I would imagine some sort of sexual assault, and then they were murdered. And I get the feeling that this just didn't go to plan. I had that feeling before. I've got it now. I believe the main perpetrator, the killer themselves, they entered from the graveyard area and began staging the scene for however much staging that was needed. And I don't know if they were supposed to be kidnapped after this and taken up and then, that was the plan, or something happened there and just it went like it went. These aren't stable people most of the times. The weirdest shit can happen to set them off. And, if Richard Allen is guilty, I hope he's found guilty. I hope, but he gets his day in court and he gets to have justice by the rules, because the rules in this are what make the system work. And if the defense, their allegations about the amount of discovery material withheld is true, and if God help the state if that any of those allegations are true about falsifying statements or the sin of omission in some of those statements by the person who wrote the affidavit, if that's true, the judiciary doesn't look kindly on that, because you've lied to them, and you've included them in something to where they look foolish, and you've broken your oath. It's an uphill battle to get a warrant like this struck down for a defense. It's tough going in, I'll tell you, because you've already had some other judicial official sign their name on that paper. So you're already in concert with the judiciary going in if you're a prosecution.
Yeah, and they don't want to buck that system.
Well, it's you're crying foul in your own house.
Yeah.
So that's why it's an uphill battle. I understand that, as someone who does defense work and work with prosecutions. I get it. And unfortunately, that's just kind of the way it has to be. I support that. I believe that you should, to get a warrant stricken, you should have to meet that high standard, because you had to meet a standard to get the warrant in the first place and partner with judiciary and certifying that. But man, if the state loses this warrant, if you really want to think about it, I think Kevin Greenlee made this point on the murder sheet, and I was thinking about it a while back, but he said it out loud. If they lose this warrant, they might lose all those confessions, because Richard Allen was incarcerated because of this warrant, and it's arguable that it could be fruit of the poisonous tree.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't be able to.
Yep.
He wouldn't have been there.
So this is important. This case, this is very vital to this case. Now, we haven't really talked about how they got to some of this shit. But Nat, you have been on this. You were blowing it up. Can you inform me better? Because I didn't go into that anyway. I was like, Neil, you know what? I've got the pro on this. She'll explain it to me. Can you tell me? And this is all under the caveat that this is the assertion of this document, this memorandum.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
This is not us.
It's not us. We didn't say
not.
this.
Yeah. This is just
we said some other hairy shit while ago, but we didn't say this.
So I can't remember who it was. I think it was a member of the defense who, before they got the discovery from the prosecution that they had not heard anything about Odinism in this case. It had not been talked about, anything like that. And then one of the victims' grandmas was in contact with somebody and mentioned it. And so it came back up.
That was
then
that was Becky Patty, right? Did she mention something about
I don't recall.
I think that was
I can't remember.
Again, I didn't focus that heavily on that.
The name.
Part.
But anyway, so it just like brought this all up again. And then they started looking into the investigation that that was done at the beginning. And then just, pushed aside once the professor said that it wasn't linked, the crime scene or the whatever happened with that.
The professor who they don't know who the professor was.
Yeah. So so then they start poking at like, well, why wasn't this looked into more? Who's the professor? Like, why were these people written off as not a suspect so early and not thoroughly vetted, which John seems like there's more information around that. But anyway, so they start going into all these people's Facebooks and their posts leading up to and around the same time as Abby and Libby's murder. And there's pictures of altars, runes, quotes. And I've looked through these Facebooks as much as you can. There, it's however many years ago now, and the type of people that they are they're questioning in here are like your uncle who shows up to the barbecue already drunk, possibly high on not weed,
right?
And
you mean me?
And likely probably doesn't respect women, at least not as like people.
And he's gonna tell you a story you're actually too young to hear, and you wouldn't want to hear when you're old enough to hear it.
Yeah, they also kind of seem like,
you mean my dad? Not me.
They also seem like people who will take the law into their own hands,
like,
but not
sovereign.
Actually do it. Like they'll just say they will.
Jason Aldean.
Yes. I don't know. It's just Facebook is my point.
Right.
And they pull a lot of just Facebook, trying to put weight on what they think is more suspicious than Richard Allen.
So basically, it's our moms have done this investigation.
Well,
yes. I'm like,
it's a keyboard identity. Like, everybody has the keyboard warrior, but people create their own identity on Facebook as well. Like you put the memes up about like I'm tough and these things. You can't beat me.
Lots of quotes with like black and white lions.
Yeah.
You guys have really described a lot of my social media, and I'm not comfortable with this right now.
Well, you don't. If you posted,
Yeah, if you do it, it's out there, man. It's you. That's you now.
But
and yet it's against the law.
if you read the memorandum, there's one person that they hone in on that in particular has quite a fascinating Facebook. If you go back starting in like 2016 and just kind of see where it progresses to. It's not even anything super crazy. There's some stuff on there that's mentioned that's like, weird, but also just Facebook posts.
Right.
Also,
You know,
if you go and look at these, don't harass these people or don't leave messages.
Don't even comment.
Yeah, but
look at anything.
Hey, it's open to look at. That's what they're there for.
Yeah, it's public.
It's public. Just
don't be weird.
Yeah,
shut up. No one wants to hear your take on it.
Well, they want to hear. I'm left several messages.
Right. Yeah.
But nobody else do it because I don't want my thunder taken away.
No, dude, I got so many different like fake accounts, and I haven't commented. I don't comment on anything. I've found people been guilty of some really heinous shit and look through their social media to see like how they've been acting or whatever. But no, commenting is not advisable.
Yeah. No. Anyway, but yeah,
you're lightly observe.
Right. And no, what you did was exactly that. Like that's investigating.
Right.
And
you're right. I am an investigator.
No, I mean that's part of it. It's exactly what was
there. You're an investigator.
No, I mean the fact that they have put so much weight on Facebook posts is insane. There's one post in particular that obviously wasn't there anymore that I would be very curious to see. But again, it comes from this source in Georgia who, I mean, they don't say how
we will refer to that source as the water boy. And if you get it, you get it.
Yeah. Look at the memorandum and you'll get it.
Mama said the memorandum was working.
What's that word that keeps getting used? It's not a word. I forgot. Anyway.
I don't know. Anyways, if you want me to look into anybody that you know or don't know, and you want me to stalk their Facebooks, I will do it.
She will. She's a woman, and that's it. That's all you need to know.
Yeah. I find stuff out.
You do be finding shit out.
I do be finding stuff out.
Yeah.
No, it's a good point though, because this seems like it's very much they looked into these people, but they're going on their online personalities, which is
they're going crazy. On just Facebook. Well, not just Facebook. There's some interviews from people that might have intentions of speaking ill of
interview an ex-wife. You have to always remember there's a possibility that those two people don't get along.
They also mentioned some other people in there that are whatever, but they don't mention in their own, I guess, investigation whether these people had like whether they had alibis at the time too. There's somebody that they mentioned confessed to a family member. They don't say whether they like.
Are you talking about the king?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will refer to him as the king.
There's a alibi that he and another person were their alibis, but it kind of fell apart.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, like, did the defense start looking at this themselves as well?
They don't have to.
Okay. Did they? I guess not. But
no, they don't have to do. They don't need to substantiate any of this beyond what they did in that memorandum.
They're also kind of accusing.
That's not the goal. It's not the goal to convict these people.
No, but
that's not the goal. The goal is to get him moved out of Westville.
I know, but by doing that, how liable are they? Basically saying these people are.
They are very savvy, like a lawyer. They put it in the context of this is an investigation. This is the results of that investigation, because these were things that were withheld in discovery. And once it was found out and it was discovery, well, it's not them saying it. It's what happened in the investigation.
I wonder, though.
Now, the conclusions, if they make conclusions that are not directly derivative off of what was found in the investigation, then that puts them in an actionable point. And I think they're actually okay with taking a hit on a lawsuit from these folks in this.
Which
Yeah, maybe.
I'm not
I
sure
think,
how many of them would be able to do that.
I know one is.
yeah, it's. I think they may be rolling the dice just a tiny bit, but when you understand the actions of what's actually going on, the purpose of these actions, rather.
Let me ask you this. Sorry, I didn't mean
Go
to-
ahead.
if the, and this won't happen before the case, but if they were to be sued, right,
Mhm.
before the trial, then that won't come up. But like they were be sued and lost the defense,
It's a civil case.
can that be introduced into the case then?
In what context?
That they were misrepresenting these people in their memorandum.
What this memorandum is that's published to the court, what that's going to do is it's going to have bearing on this particular.
But their thesis statement is this is the blah blah blah.
But that's weighed in the criminal court by the judge.
I know, that's what I'm saying. So
and that that hearing is going to come long before any lawsuits
sure,
going to be.
I know.
I mean, hypothetically, if that did happen before this Franks hearing, no, it still wouldn't. It wouldn't impact shit because the standard is far different. It's not about civil injury. It's about criminal liability.
I know, but sometimes they allow criminal.
But this is.
I mean, civil judgments in there.
That's true, but it won't apply here because it's the standard that the hearing is going for is this warrant fucked basically,
Right.
have the totality of the actions by the prosecution contributed to this situation. And on the flip side, with this stuff, does the court need to reconsider their denial of the initial motion to move him from Westville? That's where
Or
that's going to come in.
they're trying to say,
Public
even
outcry can have an effect on something.
Probably
like
even
this.
more than just getting him moved from Westville is to put the doubt that he was coerced into these confessions at Westville.
Right. I mean, it does. Yeah, it lends itself to that
Because those confessions.
Right. I mean,
I don't know what's on there, but there might be. It sounds like. Bad.
Yeah. I mean, and to be perfectly frank, there are no pun intended on this. There are plenty of false confessions.
Of course, there
plenty.
Are. There's one.
I don't, and I don't know what was going on with him when he confessed.
No, but he did apparently several confessions.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know if there are, guards who are scaring the shit out of him or getting him in. I don't know. I don't know one way or the other. I do know that it has happened. He is a known quantity.
Yeah,
and it's not usual what is happening to him as far as his pretrial incarceration. It's not standard. I've said that before. They threw this fucker in a hole, and he was in darkness. He didn't have representation or anything at the beginning. The original judge signing off on that, I gotta think that's going to come home to roost at some point.
Not been mentioned yet.
Something. It was very atypical.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I will have to. The trial's where it's all gonna come out. I don't.
Oh well, I mean, this hearing has got me on the edge of my seat. To be perfectly honest with you, I almost blew past it. I think we've gotten to most of the meat in this. Nat, do you have anything to add about these guys on this particular Odinist angle?
Not really. Not above my own
Well, let's hear your evaluation.
Suggestions.
Well, let's hear what do you want to put out there about this?
I would just say take it all with a grain of salt. Everything in there. But I would say from this whole document, I'm more upset with the prosecution than I am with the defense taking advantage. I mean, they're doing their job here, but the fact is that there were two young girls who were brutally murdered, taken away from their families, taken away from their futures, And this angle that I don't think has much weight almost feels disrespectful.
Oh, so you're saying more the defense than the prosecution?
No. I know what the defense is doing, what they're doing. They're doing their
Okay.
job.
Oh, gotcha.
The prosecution, if any of this is true, didn't do their job.
Right.
And continues to fall short. And it's just really fucking unfortunate.
Yeah. I agree.
So that's how I feel.
Yeah. So succinctly and accurately and artfully stated.
Yeah. I'm like, if I was their families, oh man, I don't even know. You don't know what you would do because you're not in the situation, but
This is just over and over and over again. These things have popped up,
it's
and
just so fucking disappointing.
between the suspects and the rumors and the fucking accusations, and it's just on and on. And then just to be told certain things,
it boggles me. Or just it's so bad.
boggles.
The physical evidence in this case,
Mm-hmm.
the mishandling and the abundance of it that was just lost to the wind. You know, who knows? There's a river right there. Who knows if they didn't use a bunch of paper towels to clean off one of the bodies and just dump it in the river, and then people are out there searching that river and just watching what they think is trash float by.
Yeah.
But I mean, how are you going to know that?
Oh, no.
And that's not
that's
anybody's fault.
circumstance. No, that's not anybody's fault. But and then you've got the shoe under the body. That's an odd play. The phone, all this other stuff, and the blood that had to get on the perpetrators.
Mhm.
One in particular had to be just their feet had to be almost drenched, at least on one side. The top of their shoes, just probably pants leg. I don't know. I get the feeling it was probably a from behind thing, and it was quick for both. But man, I would think that the second victim didn't have a lot of time to scream or do anything. And just the absolute fucking horror those children felt. And to not care enough to do that job right. That's the dance. That's what you fucking sign up for.
Mm-hmm.
You work. You don't stop.
But
you got to give something of yourself to get that back.
I also wonder, it's not around caring, just they weren't prepared to do that.
You throw your ego.
I'm not saying
and sacrifice it on an altar, not to make a bad pun there.
I'm saying those early stages, some of these guys, they've never seen anything like that.
No.
So,
but you call someone who has.
Yeah.
The phone and the computer works. I've called plenty of people for help. Anybody.
It's not like it's like you said. It's not like it was the Dark Ages. It was 2017.
Yeah, I understand. I just don't know when this thing has gotten so much bigger than it was. It just grew from that day, and those first few days, like
the hype grew.
Yeah.
The case has always been the same.
No, I mean the manpower grew too.
Yeah, but dude, this veil of secrecy, they kept it from, no doubt, from different investigators. They were trying to compartmentalize information. They said that. And how they chose to portray the girls.
Of the things were leaking, and yeah. I don't know.
Look, man, you got to do what you got to do in these.
Yeah,
I mean, you're nothing's going to be perfect. No plan survives first contact with the enemy. But there is a method. There is a way to work these and get shit done. And there are people who will come from all over to help you who have done these things. True. You wouldn't believe the amazing people who work in this and do this shit.
Well, I know some reached out to them. They turned down.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
Yeah.
Like, why would you not accept all the help you can get?
I don't know. I don't know what
Exactly.
I don't know what the directive was. And I don't know if I
They
don't know.
didn't know for real. Honestly, they didn't know who was in charge of this for a long time. They had, they basically kicked the FBI out, and it looks like part of that was for a good damn reason.
Yeah, it was a very good
But
reason.
not everyone knew the FBI was gone, so they were still talking to the FBI at some points, and it was just such a huge clusterfuck.
Well, hopefully,
I would love to see this come to the rightful conclusion, and the people who did this
yeah, I hope they did. I hope
find
they do.
justice. And if, again, I know what I know about Richard Allen and his case and that, but if this at this point, if this search warrant got struck because of this information in this memorandum, that challenge was put up, it wouldn't surprise me.
Right.
Yeah.
And you've got a very level-headed judge on the bench.
Well, we'll see.
Not her first rodeo.
Nothing we can do to.
No, just hope and.
But the statement, I was going to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Please.
This is 2 days ago, though. The statement was released by Todd Click, who was mentioned in the memorandum as one of the officers who investigated the Odinist angle. He was with the well, I'll just read this. He's retired at this point, but he said, there are two things I would like to clear up immediately, though. Detective Fancy and Detective Murphy were not Rushville cops. So I'm sorry, before this he said he wasn't sure what he could say because of the
there is a gag order,
but he knows he could say this, and he's going to probably say more once he figures out what he's allowed to say.
Well, this isn't so much about the case, it is about assignments and employment history.
So he says there are two things that I would like to clear up immediately, though. Detective Fancy and Detective Murphy were not Rushville cops. That's where he was from. Detective Fancy was a detective from the Terre Haute Police Department.
Terre Haute, I think.
Okay. It was assigned to the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force. Detective Murphy was an Indiana State Police detective that was also assigned to the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force. So the FBI was associated with the investigation until at least July 2021. He said, secondly, this is the most important part, no one in law enforcement believes Abby and Libby were killed in a ritual sacrifice. That is the defense twisting facts or sensationalism. This is a guy who was the lead on that case, or on the that investigation.
Yeah, that arm. Yeah,
I mean that particular.
Mm-hmm.
So that speaks volumes.
It's not surprising.
Not to me, no.
Not surprising, but
it's good that he puts that. But so many people, look, they immediately clicked on and say, "Oh, it's Odinist. It's got to be this cult. It's got to be."
They're accepting of a sensational narrative.
Mm-hmm. And there was all the sensationalism around this case for years, and they knew their audience. I would say the defense knew that who they were talking to.
If all this ever comes to light and everything is put, the way it would be in a perfect world, I promise anyone listening to this podcast, there's enough sensation in what really happened. There's enough
it's horrible
of a narrative and a story to where you're not going to need anything you don't need anything more. When you realize what this is, what happened, that's enough.
And maybe even more sensational.
Well, it certainly is to me.
I mean,
there's almost a comfort in a mustache twirling bad guy, because you know what that is. Like, you can kind of put that in a box.
It also,
you're not going to be able to easily put this in a box when this is all said and done, if it comes to light.
Look, and there's also some sort of ease in saying, like, we could have never figured out this cult. This cult was secret, and we could have never protected our kids. But yet, in the everyday world, this guy is just, or whoever this guy, these guys it almost takes the burden off of you to say, this cult's doing this. This is
It's the boogeyman, dude. The boogeyman don't live outside your house.
Mm-hmm.
He's
No.
in your closet. He's close.
Yeah.
He can get you. You don't know when.
But when you're able to see the guy,
Nat
he's right
has
there.
a big revolver in her nightstand. And when that ugly fuck comes out of that closet, she's going to blow him away.
Jesus.
Sorry.
Fan fiction.
You don't know what I have.
True. Apparently I can't get in your closet. So.
Won't fit. Yeah, this is just it's all heartbreaking all around, and continue to be the absolute strangest case that I've ever seen.
I've just open mouth gobsmacked
Yeah,
at the progression of this. I'm not, like I said, the evidence was almost a relief seeing the facts that had played out. Like I wasn't crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I feel more confident in the read I have on this. And with the timing and everything, I still say it wasn't complete what they wanted to do or what the primary wanted to do, especially with more people showing up to search for them and whoever it was, the fear was building to get the fuck out of there. Like this wasn't a complete picture, but that's not uncommon with situations even somewhat similar to this.
I expect the prosecution to have some comment soon, and if they do, we'll update that.
I think the prosecution needs to really measure their response to this.
Well, I'm certain they will,
and maybe not even have one until it comes time, so that when it comes to court,
well, maybe
that hearing, that's their response.
Maybe this Todd Click was part of that as well, like just to.
Oh, I'm sure he was reached out to. No
that speaks sort of to what they would want to say on that end about the Odinist thing.
They called him Clicky too. It's like Clicky.
They called him Click Click Boom.
That's a Saliva joke.
Yeah, that's a big song.
Oh boy.
By Saliva.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess it's time to land this thing.
Yeah, we've done.
I don't think we're gonna land it.
Well,
right into the ocean.
We're ripping the emergency cord right now.
Yeah. We're gonna ejaculate that F-35 Harrier.
Yeah,
that's very strange.
That's a whole other ball game.
Very strange.
Well,
let's not talk about the government.
I hope you guys listening enjoyed this one.
I don't want you to enjoy it.
I hope we were informative. I hope our takes weren't necessarily as sensational as other people have been covering this. I tried not to demonize the prosecution or the defense as far as one's doing great, one's doing bad.
You got absolutely zero joy in your eye.
Yeah.
No.
If I were the prosecution, I would be worried though. I think the defense accomplished a lot of their goals.
Hey, look, man, I'm a big prosecution guy, so
yeah,
that's my team. Let's do it.
Nat, how do you feel closing out?
As in my saying, or how I feel about
how do you feel about this? Just your last thoughts on this.
Didn't I already give these?
You more or less, but as far as your impression, how do you think the future is going to go for this case?
I don't think it's going to be good.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be an even longer road now, and that's yeah.
Do you think they make the January 24th trial date?
It's hard to say. I don't know.
I don't think so.
Oh, I say no way in hell. I really can't see that now, especially with so many discovery issues being brought up.
Let me ask you this. This is something separate issue real quick, but why do you think the defense wanted the cameras in the courtroom?
Because these guys are there to put on a show.
Yeah, I wonder.
And they know that public opinion is going to come to their side. They have so many things working for them that normal defenses don't have.
But do you think they're gonna, physically, he's gonna sort of do that sort of thing he did the last time, Richard Allen?
Oh yeah,
the comatose
Mopey McGillicuddy. Yeah, he'll be in there for sure. That's another thing. They went through this 60 some steps of tearing apart Liggett's estimation of, how a lone person could do this. And while I admire the work, it was a bit tedious. Going like talking about every shirt hole and arm through. It's like, okay, you can summarize this and someone will get it. You're playing to the cheap seats is what you're doing.
Well, and then the way they were like assigning adjectives to him.
Yeah, it's fun.
Like
to do
I was
that.
saying, it's like if it was Trump, but a little more coherent and not funny.
And that's a much better way to say it. It's just
I also think that like people are taking that as gospel too. Like they could bring in an expert saying absolutely it can be done by one person.
What that is it's like when you get these singers doing the national anthem that do the 64-minute version.
Yeah,
they church it up.
That should do
It's what that was
128 minutes
in a document.
It started to piss me off, honestly, how often they were like repeating the steps just to add one little step. I'm like,
you can summarize that and not insult someone's intelligence. But again, they're driving the point home. I get that, but
it was overkill.
Back that one up a little bit. Come on, man. Having a 5'4" guy of no particular strength training or physical ability do all that. Yeah, that's a bit much. I agree with that point.
And I feel like so much of this document could have been summarized to where they seemed more intelligent to me.
Yeah.
Because, when you're writing an essay and it has to be a certain amount of letters or words or characters or whatever, and you just start saying the same thing but differently.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
It would help to have
a
better concept of the economy of words, if you will. So.
But anyway, so that's how I feel. I don't feel good either way about any of it.
Okay.
I don't either.
Basically, you're like, fuck this.
I don't feel good about it either because
I'm pissed, honestly.
Yeah. It's just so many things. It's nothing to feel good about.
No.
And no redemption.
And I'm like, you shouldn't feel good, but you should feel good that you're, the people who are in charge of investigating these sort of things are doing their job. And that if somebody is innocent and being wrongly accused, that those people are doing their job. But it kind of feels just,
it's icky.
Shitty.
Yeah.
Yep.
You have got some on you. You've touched it and got some on you.
Dude, come on, man.
Exactly.
Sing Silence of the Lambs.
Spiritually speaking. Yeah, it's tough. When you're there and you're doing these things. A lot of people will make a lot of these mistakes in the heat of battle, but you kind of back up and you course correct. It didn't seem like there was a lot of self-awareness in some of this.
Exactly.
And that's extremely unfortunate because ultimately who paid the price are the two that already paid the price.
Well, their families.
Yeah. But those girls, they deserve justice. Their families definitely deserve justice, but that's babies, man. Those are little kids as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But on that happy note, let's land this, as Nat says. You want to do your first sign off, or you got
say
something
this? October's coming up.
October.
We're going to be doing shifting a little bit in October
because we all love October, don't we?
October. I believe Halloween is October.
It is. It is the last day.
So we're going to be doing some horror themed. What would you say?
We'll just say we'll get on the spooky side.
Don't say that.
We'll get on the spooky side.
Nah.
Yeah.
We're going to do some Halloween based
horror movie,
supernatural stuff,
spooky, unexplainable.
Few cases that
and a surprise
intersect into us
at the end of the month.
What?
Monster Mash.
What?
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna shift it out of super depressing gear for a little while and get into
Spooky depressing.
spooky depressing.
It'll be fun, guys. Come on, don't you want to be our friends? Come on, we're all dressed in black. And
Maybe some of you guys will get to join us. We've got some.
come on,
We're cooking.
let's
some
be goth
stuff.
together.
We're cooking
Everybody,
some stuff in the cauldron.
let's be goths.
Stop talking.
But for now, we're gonna close our blinds.
That's right, because
I don't know.
that was gonna get Nat to do her whole thing.
What else?
Shut your
Close your damn blinds. I was just changing it.
and la.
Lock your door.
Lock your doors.
Sometimes it's always usually
That's only
the blinds.
sometimes when
It's only-
I'm feeling it. It's
When
when
you're-
I'm feeling it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Quit trying to-
I feel
Actually, go unlock your doors and leave them wide open. Who gives a
Yes.
shit?
Hey,
Yeah.
actually,
they're not gonna solve who kills you anyway. Make it easy.
Yeah, it doesn't. Nothing fucking matters.
Nothing
so-
matters.
And also, be afraid and don't be aware.
Yes.
Be afraid and dumb as hell.
Mhm.
I mean,
John, you got any sign offs?
Yeah. Let's see.
the
what-
end.
Yo, y'all better come back again, or I'm gonna be mad.
You just do the Beverly Hillbillies and like a Tyler Perry character.
You better get back here. I'm gonna be mad at you.
All right.
This is the wrong podcast. for
So
that.
wrong.
Everybody, come back here.
Stop.
I'm gonna miss y'all.
All right. Thanks for hanging with us, guys. If you made it to the end,
Fuck
God
that.
bless you. Don't be afraid. Be aware. Okay, guys, we got a little bit of an addendum. Right after we recorded the episode you just heard, the next day, the prosecution in the case in Delphi has issued a response to the defense motion. I'm not going to read all this. I'm going to do a bit of a summary, and John's going to help me fill in any holes I may miss or just chime in with his own characterization. John, have you had a chance to review any of this stuff yet?
Yeah, I looked over the response.
Okay, I think it was about an 8-page response. District Attorney Nick McLeland, who inherited the case from former District Attorney Robert Ives, has been fairly dogged in his insistence that he wants to keep everything as close to the chest as he can about details of the case. And as an investigator for defense and for prosecution, I can understand that drive and that need. And his response reflected his desire to continue to do so and maybe even turn up the heat a little bit more. He was trying to explain in his response, which typically you would wait until court to respond to, but I think he may have needed in his mind to go on the record on the off chance that before this scheduled hearing there were any more defense memorandums released. And he's done this before, and that he would defer to the court and the court's decision and on whatever they decide's good with him. But he has listed various items that basically pissed him off.
I think that was a good point. What you just said was a great way to describe that, where he was basically saying, okay, it's up to you, but these are the reasons why.
Yeah,
I think that it shouldn't be. It's
right. Legally, it's a bit passive aggressive, but it's consistent with the style he's done before, and he, in a way, you could say that he played kind of right into the defense's hands on some of this. His arguments do have some merits, as far as releasing some of the information. And I think he could have made much stronger arguments and failed to do so because ultimately he's going to have to answer for them in court. He basically said there were lies by the defense, and that test for that particular claim is going to be held up in court. They will test the defense's claim in alleging that there were lies told by law enforcement to obtain the search warrant, as well as lies by omission, which would be considered exculpatory. He alleged that basically the statements that were made were in violation of the gag order and called them extrajudicial. That is not an accurate statement. They are not extrajudicial statements because they were in fact made in court to the court. That's what this memorandum was. It was a judicial statement. He failed in, again, I don't want to drag this out because I think folks need to read it and make up their own minds. But in my mind, one glaring deficiency in his response was that he did not address the need for the investigation to be a little bit closer to the chest, because there are other defendants, which he has stated in his mind, that are responsible for this crime. And I don't know if that's from him being boxed in by some of the depositions and statements by law enforcement that we haven't been privy to, that would basically be a lone gunman theory. I don't know if he's, it's a strategy for that, or I don't know why he wouldn't make that statement, because that would be the strongest case, is that there's more out here.
He was the person who initially said that we feel like there are more than one person involved with this.
Right.
Or even may have said multiple people,
But don't you think that's a tactical error in his response, just off what we know? That's a great argument for there to be no more memorandums in this?
It depends on maybe.
For the purposes of truth.
Yeah, I don't know.
If it's a strategy thing, okay, but you're not after the truth. You're just after a victory. And if you as a prosecutor, and this is from someone who's been on the side of the prosecution, if you're just out to win and you're willing to sacrifice the truth, you've already lost.
To me, I was just wondering, like, is he wanting to address these things in court?
It may be.
And on the record, like, that's what it seemed like he was giving as shallow as response as possible, because he wants to.
He leaped the chasm by accusing them of lying on court testimony. I mean, that's a big deal. Of attorneys lying, that's a big deal. You can lose your license, you can face all kinds of of punitive damage for that. But going that far and leaping that chasm, you might as well say, well, we previously stated there are likely other parties involved, and we would like to keep the integrity of the case as pent up as we can, surely for the purpose of doing the people's business and serving justice. I think that would have been a huge deal.
Well,
but he didn't say that.
I think you also have lying versus misrepresentation too. Is that because they've already found that the defense misrepresented his living situation in the correctional facility,
right? But they made the allegations, and it was put to the test in court. The judge found what she found.
This is what I'm saying here. I don't know if this is a similar situation, and it's just it doesn't fare well. It's not a strong statement, but you have such a crazy statement. You have all these things coming out from the defense that it's
to the public. If this beast was created in part by not shedding light on some of the case that could have helped a little bit, and then your move is to double down and do it even harder, what are the people supposed to believe? What are they supposed to think about how this is going? Because it looks on its face like you're starting to care more about winning than you are about finding who's responsible, and that's a dangerous curve to take. And I hold the prosecutor and the prosecution to a greater standard because that's the job. That's what you sign up for. And, you know, as a person bringing charges, the core of the legal system is you are innocent until proven guilty. Well, do some proving. Get there. And if you can't, you can't. You have to. It's so important for the prosecution to play by the rules, because if you don't, you're shattering the system it's built on, and none of it means anything. All these people you've put away, all these truly awful, bad people that did terrible things, you're strengthening their chances of release. You're strengthening chances of people who are truly awful people in the future not getting justice because of widening these interpretations and breaking these rules and bending things and cutting corners. You know, when I harped on the search warrant way back when, I wasn't doing it because I don't know Richard Allen. I don't care if he's guilty or innocent. I just want what happened to be found out. And the weakness of the affidavit that I talked about then is now coming home to roost. And I think the prosecutor basically playing right into the hands of the defense. If Richard Allen is factually guilty, that's a bad move. It's a real bad move.
Look, let me ask you this: as far as timeline goes, some things at one point are seen as less valid than they are later, or vice versa. Well, for instance, the search of the was it Wabash River?
Mm-hmm.
Soon after they have this arrest of Richard Allen, right? Now we don't really know what the contents of that
3
is.
months, I think.
Yeah, but we don't know what the contents of that.
We don't know if anything was recovered.
No, but we do know. Well, I will say, I'm not going to say we know. I did listen to the murder sheet. Who is?
They're on top of it.
Yes. The most one of the most recent episodes with Figs, I believe. And Anya said that they have not backed down from that. What they were told, the source they were given, that was a search for the Delphi case.
Mm-hmm.
And Kick and Klein, whatever connection there was. So I'm saying, I know all this has to go into discovery.
Yeah.
And it will, or it is in discovery.
It should be at this point, if
But
that's the case.
These things aren't on public as well.
No.
So I don't know what the total picture is. I
think you're starting to get a better sense of clarity as time has gone on.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are things we don't discuss for multiple reasons.
But what I'm saying is, I'm just using that as an example.
Okay. So the weight of that evidence, it's not in the defense memorandum, and assuming that the defense has that discovery and did not put it in there.
Yeah, I don't think it.
Either that evidence has no weight to them, or the evidence has no weight to their defense strategy. They don't have to do or say anything, really.
No, they don't have to, but neither does the prosecution until it comes time to.
The prosecution does have to.
I mean, until it's time for trial, they have to show right. But I'm saying in that Franks Memorandum, they don't. What they were.
The Franks Memorandum is chiefly about the search warrant.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So
the Wabash River thing, I don't believe they did a search warrant.
No, I don't know. I don't know what's.
Generally speaking, if it's a publicly accessible area.
No, I'm not saying a search warrant. I'm saying the contents and where that led the investigation.
Well, I mean, it does have to go on an evidence control form, whatever, if anything was recovered.
Sure. But we haven't. I'm saying we haven't seen any of the evidence.
Right, and if there was any forensic testing, metallurgical testing, anything like that,
yeah,
that could definitely impact, where the defense is going to see the state's case going. The state doesn't get to hide much, and that's good. That's the Constitution. That's what you want. If you're a cop, that's what you want too. You want them to have that and understand the gravity of the case, because you don't want to do shady deals in prosecutions. That's how banana republics, that's how, totalitarians, that's how they conduct business.
Right.
And some of this has just been awing to me because of that. But that's it pretty much. That's what I got. John, you got anything to add to your impressions?
Stay tuned, because this is gonna no doubt get crazier. Even though we've built this callus on this case about how, the threshold of crazy we thought we'd already reached, and it's just seems to get weirder.
Yeah, they have definitely pulled a hold my beer on how crazy this case can get.
Yeah. So this is if you're into true crime, this is one for the ages.
Yeah, and big shout out to Nat. She wasn't available to record today. She's on assignment.
She's on assignment to Las Vegas.
Las Vegas. So can't wait to get her back and the next craziness. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't be afraid.